The switch. The rain hammered against the windows like tiny fists, relentless and unforgiving. Victor sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at his phone as Eleanor's latest text glowed coldly on the screen. Working late again. Don't wait up. Her excuses had become routine. The warmth they once shared had vanished, replaced by cold, awkward silences. Victor's mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. He wasn't a jealous man by nature, but the pieces didn't add up. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden interest in a perfume she never wore for him. His gaze drifted to Loki, Eleanor's sleek Siamese cat, lounging lazily on the counter. She adored Loki, whispering secrets into the cat's fur with an affection she no longer showed him. There was something unnatural about it, the way her lips moved so close to the cat's ear, as if Loki were more than just her pet. Victor's hands clenched into fists. He needed answers. That's when he remembered Greg's words. Greg, his oddball colleague, had once spoken of Madame Isolde, a problem solver who lived on the edge of town. Victor had dismissed it as nonsense back then, but tonight desperation pushed him out the door and into the storm. Madame Isolde's cabin loomed at the edge of the woods, a crooked silhouette against the stormy sky. Inside, the air was thick with incense, and talismans dangled from the ceiling like skeletal wind chimes. Victor hesitated in the doorway, but a voice called from within. "You seek the truth," said a woman with sharp eyes that glinted like polished stones. Victor stepped inside, his wet shoes creaking on the wooden floor. "I need to know what my wife is hiding." Madame Isolde smiled, her lips curling in a way that made his skin crawl. "Truth is never free," she said, her voice like dry leaves crackling underfoot. "Are you willing to pay the price?" Victor hesitated, but the image of Eleanor laughing with another man, or worse, pushed him forward. "Whatever it takes," he said firmly. The witch moved swiftly, gathering strange objects, a strand of Eleanor's hair, a tuft of Loki's fur, and a small black candle. She began to chant, her voice rising and falling in a language Victor didn't understand. The room darkened, and the air grew thick with the scent of burning herbs. A sudden pull, like a hook sinking into his chest, yanked him forward. The world spun, and Victor's vision dissolved into darkness. He woke to a disorienting world. The furniture loomed impossibly tall, and every sound was deafening. His body felt strange, wrong. He stumbled forward and caught sight of his reflection in a glass cabinet. A sleek Siamese cat stared back at him, its wide blue eyes filled with confusion and terror. "No," he tried to say, but the sound that came out was a plaintive yowl. On the floor beside him lay his human body, pale and lifeless. Footsteps thundered down the hall. Eleanor burst into the room, her face twisted in horror as she fell to her knees beside Victor's body. "Victor!" she screamed, shaking him. He tried to reach out to her, but his new feline body betrayed him. He could only watch as she cradled his lifeless form, sobbing. That night she buried him in the backyard, under the oak tree. There was no ceremony, no call to the police, just a quiet burial in the rain. She placed a single flower on the mound of dirt before turning back to the house, clutching Loki, Victor, to her chest. Victor's nightmare deepened in the days that followed. Eleanor seemed lighter, happier, as though a burden had been lifted. She whispered to him often, stroking his fur as she cooed, "You're all I need, Loki. My precious boy." But her whispers weren't comforting, they were chilling. Victor could sense the lie in her voice, the same falseness he'd felt for months. One night, Eleanor slipped out after midnight, her perfume heavy in the air. Victor, determined to follow her, darted out behind her. His small, agile body moved silently through the rain-soaked streets as he trailed her to a secluded cabin deep in the woods. Inside, a tall, gaunt man waited. "Isolde said the transfer was perfect," Eleanor said, her voice light with satisfaction. The man chuckled. "Good. With his soul bound to the cat, the final ritual will be seamless." He never suspected a thing, did he? Eleanor laughed, the sound cutting through Victor like a blade. Of course not. He was so blinded by jealousy, he practically walked into the trap, Victor's fur bristled. He backed away from the cabin, his heart racing. He hadn't just been betrayed, he'd been used. Desperate to stop them, Victor returned to the house and searched for a way to disrupt their plans. Hours passed as he pawed through drawers and knocked over objects. Finally, he found it, a leather-bound journal hidden beneath Eleanor's pillow. Its pages detailed the ritual, a dark spell that would consume his soul entirely to power the creation of an immortal vessel. The new moon was tomorrow night. Victor waited, his rage simmering beneath the surface. When Eleanor carried him to the cabin the next night, he played the part of the docile pet, purring softly in her arms. The gaunt man was there, lighting candles and drawing symbols on the floor. The circle flared to life as Eleanor placed Victor in the center, stroking his fur one last time. "You've been such a good boy, Loki," she murmured. Victor's fury ignited. As the ritual began, he leapt into action, clawing at the symbols and scattering candles. The flames caught the inked circle, spreading quickly. "No!" the man roared as the room erupted in chaos. Victor darted through the smoke, his small body a blur of fur and fury. The flames consumed the cabin as Eleanor screamed, her voice rising above the crackling fire. Victor watched from the edge of the woods, his chest heaving. But then, through the smoke, a shadow emerged. Eleanor's voice drifted on the wind, soft and sweet. "Loki," she called, "come home." Victor's fur bristled. That wasn't Eleanor anymore. The house was eerily quiet when he returned. Victor sat by the window, staring out at the yard where his body rested beneath the oak tree. His claws flexed against the windowsill. The nightmare wasn't over. Eleanor, or whatever she had become, was still out there. But Victor wasn't done yet. He would wait. He would watch. And when the time came, he would strike. This wasn't over.